Mr. Long, the Jeep guy that I am. We've got a Toyota that we get to do some work on today. This is a 2006 Toyota 4Runner that has some stuff that needs to be addressed. Here, here, right there, and right there and there. Okay, so what we need to do in all those places is we have some parts that we got to get replaced, and those parts are actually right here on this cart. That's amazing. So we have front brakes that we need to get replaced. We have struts and shocks all around. So struts go on the front, shocks go on the rear of this. This has a Toyota XREAS. I don't know how they say it. I don't know if XRES beats the crap out of me. Some Toyota thing that actually connects all of the shocks that are currently on there with like these brake lines that run across. We've got the front driver to back passenger and front passenger to rear driver that are hydraulically connected. We're ripping all that crap out. We're going to put some Bilstein shocks and struts in. We have some KYB. These are the strut mounts. So those are going to go on the front. We have some pulleys and a tensioner. This is going to be a fun one because a whole bunch of stuff has to be removed to get the tensioner replaced. And then the serpentine belt. So we have two upper pulleys, one lower pulley on this car. One of the problems that we have for sure is one of these pulleys is toast. And you'll get any one of a dozen different opinions on whether you replace other parts that aren't bad. And longtime techs with a lot of experience don't agree on the topic. There's a handful that say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's dumb to replace parts. And I typically do lean that way. But in this case, if one of them is failing, we're going to pull the belt off to get it replaced, and we might as well just replace all of them while we're in there. Front brakes, strut mounts. We also have a worn hub assembly, not a worn trademark hub assembly, but a worn out hub assembly. So we're going to replace the hub when we do the front brakes. And that's going to be on the driver's side front. So let's get started. Now, this is not going to be a how-to. I'm not going to spend a bunch of time telling you every step. I'll definitely bring you along for the ride, and anything that crosses my mind that I feel is important, we'll definitely talk about. So we're going to start here. Welcome to the shop classroom. These are actually the desks that came out of the classroom because we got a sweet donation last week. Thank you, World of Speed. I am sorry that you are leaving. I do appreciate what you gave to the shop here to help us out. We're going to start here by saving ourselves a little bit of time when we go back together, and that is we're going to draw a belt diagram real quick. I'm just going to draw some pulleys that I see and their approximate location in space. Just like that. Now, that looks like a terrible mess, but that's going to save us some time on the other side. So now we get to keep taking stuff apart. Let's do it. Now, one thing to consider, this belt kind of goes around the fan, and I think some people might be tempted just to cut it and get it out of there. I don't like cutting belts or hoses. There are some cases where I would, but for the most part, I prefer not to. That's because we need to do a couple things. We have the belt off. Before we start feeding this belt in, let's make sure we're close. Okay, so we're just going to hold them up. Realize the old one might be a little bit straighter. It might have a little more slack in it, but we're really close there. Okay, So we're really close. Nothing worse than getting the car apart and going back together, getting the belt all dirty, and getting frustrated. Stuff's not fitting, only to realize that it's not even the right belt. Samesies, right? Okay, so we're gonna check the diameter of these. That would be a problem too. If we go to put these on and they're totally different sizes. Okay, so we can take this and stick that in there, stick that in there. Now, one thing to always consider is, how do we know that that little dust cover washer belonged that way? Exactly. It's totally clean on this side, and this side, there's just enough clean for the head of that bolt. So we know that it went on there like that. And I only say that because there's actually a shape stamped into this. I don't know if you'll be able to see it. But so we want to make sure that goes on the same way. And that's ready to go in. Upsy daisy. We got to get the AC compressor off because Toyota, in their infinite wisdom, the AC compressor mounts right here, and we need to replace this. Now, what we could do is just replace the pulley. We could pull this nut off here, or the bolt off, and just thread this onto the old tensioner. But this was paid for, and the spring in there over time can get tired, and so we're absolutely gonna do the full project here. We're gonna pull the AC compressor off and replace this whole stupid, dumb, you know what time it is. It's about to say pro tip. I left that one in a little bit and all it did was fell on me. So I left this one in a little bit. And the last one. Pro tip, when we're doing this, we want to, another pro tip, right there, that's a bad tire, definitely a bad tire. But back to what I was talking about, 6 point is going to be the magic, where the magic happens on this, okay? The head of the bolt is super short, it's so dumb. Anyway, so 6 point, not 12 point, not one of these guys, okay? This is going to grab onto the nut way better. It's a bolt. It's going to grab onto the head of the bolt way better than this. This is going to strip it. It's going to round off the corners, and we're in big trouble. Not paid placement. Okay, we are starting to pull these bolts out, and what I always would suggest that you do anytime that you're going to pull bolts out of a bracket like this, make sure that you put it in the new part where it belongs. Sometimes this happens a lot. You'll start ripping and tearing, you'll just start pulling bolts out of the holes, and then you look at the bolts and there's long ones and short ones, and sometimes it's not super obvious which one goes where. And sometimes you don't realize it until you get to the very end of a project, you're mostly done, and you slip a bolt into the hole and it goes all the way in because you're left with a short one because you put that long one somewhere else. I just took that bolt out. The other nice thing about doing this is I can see there's probably a bolt, the alternator probably mounts right there. I need to undo that, and then we have 3 more bolts. This one is already loose. I need to get these back to, and then I need to get the alternator off. Just like that, it's so easy. Oh, Actually, this is about 3 hours later. We are done with the serpentine belt and the tensioner and the idlers. This definitely was not a super easy job. We still have the brakes and the hub to do, and still have the struts and shocks to do. We still have an alignment to do. I'm probably going to finish this video out with this, just because it's the belt and the idlers and the tensioner, and that's done. And that way we can have a video. Needed the jump box. The battery's been sitting a little too long. I see I still have my dirt all over my face that I still need to clean off better. But we're going to go ahead and start it and make sure that everything is working right. All right, it's late. We got to close this up. I still have grades to submit. They're all in the grade book, but I still got to submit them. And I still have to change all my Schoology stuff over. I am going to be here late tonight. This was the serpentine belt kit that you could buy. This was idlers, tensioner, serpentine belt. And we just replaced all that. It was not the easiest job, not the funnest job on this truck, but we got it done. All the bolts are tight. All the bolts are back in where they belong. And we got to move on to the next one now.